We'll get back to the Warriors all throughout the day, 888-957-9570, because there is a lot to like with the Warriors, and there are some concerns. There's no doubt. And one of the concerns is Andrew Wiggins. So Junior Pacifica wants to talk about Andrew Wiggins. What's up, Junior?
Hey, guys. Good morning. I love Andrew Wiggins, and he's frustrating as heck, but he is a unique person. I believe he took a team-friendly contract, partly so he would not be under the ultimate pressure of making $10 million a year more. And he's going to be out when he needs to be out, and he's going to play like this most of the time, and he's going to turn it on when his inner radio station clicks to the right spot on the dial. So let me finish with a conclusion and a question. The conclusion is that he's going to be a Warrior for a long time, I think, as long as the core is, because they love him. He loves them. And here's my question. Who would you replace him with? With that team-friendly contract, with the way he does sometimes turn it on, the way he fits with the team, how could you replace him? And we just got to love him.
I think, to your point, Junior, I think it's too early to be talking about replacing Andrew Wiggins. We're 7 games in. All right, a lot of guys get off to slow starts. There's no reason to panic. Clay gets off to slow starts. Now he's off to a better start this season. His approach to the game has been unbelievable. His sacrificing shots. I think Clay's been fine. Let's get 20 games in or 15 games in before we have a real conversation about Andrew Wiggins and moving on or replacing him or whatnot. Maybe it's replace him with the starting lineup, but then maybe you lose him, if you do that.
He seems fragile's too strong, but he seems delicate right now in terms of his psyche, and I think that he's someone you definitely don't want to lose throughout this year. B, I do believe that we have bestowed these qualities on certain players who just aren't that. Like, great example is Eric Armstead. He's not a centerpiece. Never be a centerpiece. He's a role guy. Now, he's paid more like a centerpiece type of a player, but that's just not who he is. He's a good player. He's a really good player. You can win a lot of games with a guy like him, but he's not a centerpiece type of a player, right? And I look at basketball, and there are, obviously levels to the salary cap and things like that, and sometimes guys get paid more than what they are. David Lee, his best role was as a supporting player, not as the centerpiece. Even though when he was a centerpiece, we weren't bad, but we were better when he took a secondary role. And I look at someone like Andrew Wiggins, and it's like we want him to be the second best player. That just might not be who he is. He might just be the third or fourth best player on this team, or fifth or whatever, and we just might have to accept that.
Well, we get so caught up in who's the second best player, who's the third best player, who's the fourth best player. I just need everybody to play their roles. Right now, Andrew Wiggins' role is to be a two-way player. Be aggressive offensively, crash the glass at times, help the big guys out in rebounding, and play lockdown defense on the Donovan Mitchells of the world. That's Andrew Wiggins' role. Steph is the chef. He's the straw that stirs the drink. Now everybody needs to play their role. Draymond Green right now is playing his role. Klay Thompson is adapted to his role. Chris Paul is adapted to his role, coming off the bench and dropping dimes and leading that second unit. Sarge is playing his role. So whether or not he's the second, third, fourth, best player, I need the player who is consistent in that playoff run to win a championship. And right now, that player's not there in Andrew Wiggins. But am I going to go crazy and say, hey, man, we need to trade this guy right now? He's lost. We're 7 games in.
Nobody's saying that.
I saw some good signs Friday night in Oklahoma City. Now, he took a step back yesterday. He's got to find that jumper. He's got to find that three-point shot. He's got to be a bit more assertive. But I'm not going to go out here and start saying, hey, man, trade Andrew Wiggins 7 games into the season. Now, is this who he is? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. It's a guy who averaged 24 points in a game at some point. And if anybody says, oh, anybody could do that in the NBA, yeah, well, why doesn't everybody do that?
Come on.
That's stupid, right? So let's get 15 games in before we start having some sweeping proclamations on whether or not you should move Andrew Wiggins. Right now, let's see what's up with Wiggins. Let him play through this. Tonight's a big night for him.
I'm with you on that part. I just think that we're trying to fit him into a role that he just might not be might not be best suited for, And I like your point about being a great two-way player. There's no doubt if he started playing better defensively, I'm sure shots would start to fall and the narrative around him would start to evolve.
Right.
But when your production offensively is down and the production defensively is down, people fair or not, start to criticize your engagement level. And especially when you're a guy that doesn't show a lot of emotion and seems to be very stoic, I think people start to come down your road. It makes you an easy target, fair or not. And I don't think it's fair, but I do think a lot of fans do that. And I always go to this one, B. At some point, you'll be coaching Baby Ches in some sport. I don't know what it is, but I always get
play sports.
What?
If she plays.
Okay, maybe she doesn't play sports, but I always use the play analogy with parents because they'll say to me, my son should be playing shortstop and batting leadoff. And I'm always like, all right, look, if your son or daughter tried out for the play, okay, and it was Peter Pan,
right?
Well, someone's got to be Hook and somebody's got to be Peter Pan. And there's only one of those guys each, okay? Somebody else has to be a tree. Somebody else has to light up the screen, and be one of the grips and hang on to the boom mic.
Right.
Today, your son or daughter is going to be holding up the boom. Now, maybe at some point down the line, they'll be best suited to be Peter Pan. But if your child is afraid of the limelight and can't remember their lines, well, then I'm doing a disservice by trying to thrust you into that role. And it's the same thing with the Warriors right now, where it's like clearly Steph Curry in this analogy is Peter Pan. I would put Draymond as Hook. You know what I mean? Where he's our villain guy in this one. And maybe Andrew Wiggins on one night can be one of the Lost Boys. And on another night, he can be one of the people holding up the light. And the next night, he's a tree. I think his role is going to evolve. I don't think he can be the second best player every single game in and out.
It's going to change. It's going to change on a night-to-night basis. Peter Pan Hook, I had no idea where you're going. It's pretty good, the way to bring that together.
You like that?
I didn't know where you're going.
I was trying to see if you could name any characters outside of the main two.
Yeah,
where's Wendy at? Tiger
I
Lily?
did not reference Rufio.
Where's Rufio?
Oh, Hook is a classic. Love that
where's
movie.
Classic
Tinkerbell? Who's a big kid? Who's a big kid?
Was it John was the little brother, right?
Yeah.
John, but the kid who had the rollerball, he became.
I forget who that was.
He was the one who lifted up the sword at the end of the movie.
There's John. There's Pete. No, I don't know.
Peter. Yeah, I think Peter.
Well, there's Peter Pan. He's the main one. We'll get our crack staff on it in the back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I didn't know where. I was like, man, where are we going here, man? Where
Well, this is what happens.
Michael. There we go.
Michael.
But look, when you say that analogy to a parent, they start to slowly understand it, and they realize it's like, hey, look, not everybody is suited to be the main role.
Well, not every parent. Trust me, I covered high school sports.
Well, that's
for a long time.
Yeah, trust me.
Not every parent realizes their kid can be
But-
numero uno. Not every kid is the alpha, but some parents will think that, my son should be this or my daughter should be that. It's like, well, I'm not here to tell you, no, she shouldn't be, or no, he shouldn't be. But, every parent to each his own. I'm going to be that parent that just shuts the hell up. Seriously, I'm not.
Believe it when I see it.
No, I'm not going to be that parent because I know how hard it is to coach. And I'm going to know whether or not my daughter is good or not. Like, baby girl, look.
That's what everyone says.
No, but I'm not everyone. I'm one of one. By the way, this is a Monster Monday brought to you by
Thank you,
First
Andrew
Five
Wiggins.
California. To learn 4 things you can do to overcome toxic stress, go to first5california.com.
I'm not a system player. I am a system.
Let's go to Tim
Baby
Riley.
Ches is not a system player. She is the system.
Nah, I will not be doing that.
I'm not a
Tim
system
and
player.
Riley.
I am
Tim
a
and Riley,
system.
North Carolina. Our main man, Tim and Riley, North Carolina. What's up, Tim? How about those Wolfpack beating up on the Miami Hurricanes? They snacked them.
Yeah, that was a big one over here, man. But yeah, what I wanted to say, guys, if you go back to last year, those early games that went to the wire, like Orlando, the Charlotte game, I think these low minutes for Steph and these starters, that's what gave him the energy to drive the ball past Lou Dort. Remember last year in those close games, he was just chucking 30-footers when the game was on the line. I think he was wore out. And another one, what I wanted to pay attention to, guys, I think with Kuminga being able to play through these mistakes the way he is,
right,
and giving a second chance. We both know last year, OKC, Cavs game that just happened, he wouldn't have got put back in the second half.
That's a good point.
And we can both agree that we would not have won that OKC game without his second half.
No doubt.
I think the fact that he's able to build confidence and play through these things and not have to look over his shoulder, I think a confident Kuminga is going to be a game changer towards the end of the season. I think that's probably why he was so frustrated, along with a lot of us, that he just didn't get a shot against the Lakers. I mean, we can all look at this right now and understand that this guy was probably given similar treatment last year, just allowed to play. He probably would have done a lot of this last year, to be honest with you. He did actually win.
He's a little more under control, though, Tim. Tim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but he's a little more under control this year, and he seems to be making the extra pass just a little more. And it just my naked eye through 7 games.
I agree. I agree with that as well. But I just think the fact that he can stop having to look over his shoulder. I don't know how the kid has the confidence, but I think the fact that he can stop looking over the shoulder and just play basketball, man, I think that's going to be a game changer for this team later in the year. Some big game.
I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly about Jonathan Kuminga, and it looks like what he needed was a guy who could stabilize the game, a guy who could put him in the right spots. He needed a point guard, a true point guard. Jordan Poole, and I'm not here to go back on last year and rip Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole is more of a scoring guard. He's going to look to get his first, and he's electric in that fashion. He can get to the basket. He can create for himself. Now, when you ask him to play a point guard spot like Chris Paul, that's not Jordan Poole's nature, especially not right now. He's not there yet. So it looks like Jonathan Kuminga, and I'm not saying Jordan Poole is the reason why this and why that. I'm not saying that at all. But he needed a guy like Chris Paul. Chris Paul has helped him and Moody out tremendously. And so now you're getting a more under control Jonathan Kuminga. You got somebody who could check Jonathan Kuminga when he's getting out of control. You got Chris Paul there, who's seen a lot, done a lot, has been in a lot of battles.
I would also say that CP3 and Saric have been feeding the ball to Kuminga when he gets low post.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Which has been a big development for him. I don't think last year they had one guy that knew how to throw an entry pass.
No doubt. That's what I'm saying. He needed somebody like Chris Paul to help him stabilize the game. And when he does get a little wacky, hey, take a chill pill. I need you here. I need you here. Just play your game. Hey, get back on defense. Those little conversations that he's having and the respect that Chris Paul garters in that locker room is tremendous here. So it's just a different personnel. And again, I'm not ripping on Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole was not beneficial for Jonathan Kuminga's game last year. Everything was all haywire because Poole's going to look to get his scoring, and then Kuminga's like, well, I'm going to look to get my scoring. Now you got a point guard who could set up the offense and get everybody in the right spot. So that's CP's helping out Jonathan Kuminga, and now we're seeing elite with Jonathan Kuminga in his third year in the league.
I would love to see where he catches the ball this year, like advanced, like where he's catching it this year on spots on the floor, like if there was a heat map as opposed to last year. It felt like last year on the perimeter, everyone ISO out, shake and bake, and then he gets a charge call, or he turns it over, or takes an ill-advised shot. Whereas this year, he's getting the ball in spots on the floor where he can actually do something with it. The other thing that you reference right there, and I think is really important when it comes to just the CP3 effect, there are so many times at a foul call, going into a timeout, coming out of a timeout, where CP3 is literally barking or tutoring Moody and Kuminga and talking to these guys. The in-game coaching is through the roof. The other thing is I think we need to give Steve Kerr some credit for sticking with some of these young guys through some of their mistakes. I think Steve Kerr's been on it with the lineups this year. I actually really like some of the lineups he's been throwing out there.
No,